Maker. I know you guys are probably a little sick of seeing Drarry constantly, unless you followed me for Drarry, I guess, but I made the mistake of opening Twitter recently, and this is my way of healing. So, disclaimer, I guess. This work features trans characters. It also features a trans reader, so if you're not here for that, I'd recommend leaving forever. But yeah. Anyway. Worth It by Autumn Snuggling. Read by Peony Potfix. Chapter 1. Slowly, he realizes it's quiet, save for the soft crackling of the fire. "That's the third time you've drifted off since tea, mate," Ron says, frowning. "Sorry." He tries, and fails, to shove thoughts of the afternoon from his mind. "Bad day, you know." Ron does know. When Harry wakes up screaming in the middle of the night, it's Ron's bed he crawls into, even if that means shoving Anthony Goldstein out of the room with Terry Boot multiple times a week. And if the war isn't exactly what's on his mind right now, well, that's between him and... "Must have been bad if Quidditch didn't help," Ron says. Harry blinks against the tide of nausea. "Want to sleep with me tonight?" "I'll be okay." Ron's supposed to be having a night with Hermione, whilst her roommate is off visiting family. "Thanks, though." "Anytime." Ron smiles, and Harry marvels at the fact that he means it. "So, you were telling me how the cannons are gonna smash the arrows this time?" He tries to keep up as Ron cites stats, analyses, and tactics, but his eyes straight at the door of the 8th year common room every time it opens. He knows he's not fooling Ron for a minute, but he chunters on as though Harry's hanging on his every word. And Harry loves him for it. If there's one thing the war has taught them, it's that the mindless chattering of others can quieten the storm in your mind, and they've all perfected the art of carrying a conversation independently. "Goodness, I didn't realize the time." A blur of wild curls brings Harry back again. "I got so caught up finishing the arithmetic essay. I don't know how Professor Dunsey expected us to only write 6 inches. I must have written at least 10. "Hermione," Ron sighs fondly, "it wouldn't matter how much he asked you to write. You'd always find a way to add 3 inches, easily." "Well, I don't know about that." She shifts slightly on the sofa, though her cheeks darken and her lips curl upwards. The door swings open again, and Harry's heart hammers, though he knows it's too early for him to be back from the library again. He's grateful for Hermione's feet landing in his lap a moment later, their solid weight just enough to keep him part of the conversation he's contributing nothing to. But by the time the fire's low, and Hermione and Ron are staring lovingly at each other while studiously avoiding eye contact, his heart's still flip-flopping. "I think I'm going to go to bed." He shifts Hermione's feet onto Ron's legs. "Remember to cast a Lumos this time. Terry will kill you if you trip and wake him up again," Hermione says. "Or knock over his stack of books." Ron finally tears his lovesick gaze from Hermione's shoulder. "But remember, mate, you know where we are." The sincerity in his eyes hits him square in the chest all over again, and Harry can only nod before stumbling up the stairs. He wishes it would stop the image of Malfoy, slack-jawed and wide-eyed, from haunting him as he closes his eyes. It's just so much. It's what he croaks as he crawls into bed with Ron barely 3 nights later, clinging to the hushes and, I know, as much as he does to Ron's t-shirt. I'm sorry. It's a shudder and a gasp, hidden against a strong chest, and a whimper escapes him when Ron squeezes him closer. He just needs it to stop. All of it. The headache, the tightness in his chest, the constant whispers of panic that catch him constantly. But his thoughts only quieten with his nose buried in warm, rain-scented skin. Want to talk about it? His voice is rough, and his words are slurred. But Harry knows if he says yes, Ron would be fully awake in a second. Words lodge in his throat, heavy and sickening. He shakes his head. It's against the rules, even if Ron would take the secret to his grave. And though he's never really paid much mind to them, silence is one rule he wants people to follow. So he has to, himself. His stomach clenches at the thought of Malfoy blabbing, and it's only Ron's hand in his hair that makes him realize he's whining. Sherry. Ron cuts off his next babble of apologies, his soft strokes ensuring his continued quiet. Tomorrow'll be better. He's heard it countless times, always on nights like these, and he never believes it, though from sheer pessimism or fear of disappointment, he can't tell. But it's hearing those words that finally lets free the breath he's held prisoner for the last few days. That's it. Ron rumbles as he sags into him, heavy, sweet warmth seeping to his very core. Sleep. He can't yet. Knows there's no chance right now. But Ron's breaths, even and steady like a push and pull of a tide, promise him that eventually he will. Chapter 2. It's not until he's actually there, searching the worn tables of the library, that he realizes what he's doing. I need to know if you've told anyone. Malfoy's head snaps up from the runes he was deciphering, and he almost sends his ink flying. What? Or if you're going to tell... I have no idea what you're talking about, Potter. It's a hiss, and a frantic one at that. As he resumes his elegant script, the quill quavers. Look, I know we hate each other, and we'd rather smash each other's faces in than do anything nice for one another, but... But what, Potter? I repeat, I don't know what you're talking about. You can't just pretend we didn't... that we don't... I could if it weren't physically impossible for you to shut your mouth. Malfoy's eyes dart around furtively, even though no one else is insane enough to study before breakfast. Well, excuse me for wanting a warning that my life's about to change forever. Not like it's a common courtesy or anything. Malfoy turns a page he definitely did not read, jaw tight. A courtesy you didn't afford me. What? He blinks. Icy eyes level with his. You don't seriously expect me to believe you didn't run straight to Granger, Weasel, and your adoring press without so much as a second thought about me? He spits. Well, yeah, actually. Malfoy sneers. Fuck off, Potter. I didn't. I haven't breathed a word to anyone. He holds his hands up. Then, in a lower tone, if I'd told somebody, I would have slept better. Oh, poor golden boy, missing out on your hero sleep. Do we need to hire a nanny to sing you a lullaby? Oh, could you just stop being such a colossal dick for a minute, Malfoy? 8 a.m. is far too early for a headache. I promise I didn't tell anyone. Didn't even consider telling the bastards at the Prophet, and Ron and Hermione have no idea. Enemies or not, one trans person to another, I would never do that. Stormy eyes, sharp and cutting, search his for the briefest of moments, then drop back to the parchment, shoulders lowering just slightly. Harry lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. So, he swallows. What about you? What about me what, Potter? Malfoy mutters. Quill steady and scratching in earnest once more. Have you told anyone? There's nothing to tell. But we crossed paths in the changing rooms after Quidditch, Potter. That's all. He searches the eyes that meet his through long pale lashes, heart fluttering in his throat. So no one knows but you. How can people know something when there's nothing to know? And as there's nothing to know, there's nothing to tell, so no one's ever going to know. Right. Because nothing happened, Potter. He takes a breath, finally letting a lightness bubble up in his chest. Right. Nothing happened. Double potions. Ron's groan is muffled by the table he's attempting to bury his head in. Why does it have to be double potions? Cutlery clatters on plates in the great hall. Then Harry smiles into his pumpkin juice when Hermione rolls her eyes. Clearly because the staff who drew up our timetables are set on hurting you, personally, Ronald. She ignores the answering groan in favor of buttering her toast. At least it's not 2 hours of double potions with Snape. Harry nudges a plate of pancakes towards Ron's ear, snorting when Ron blindly grabs 4. Thank fuck for small mercies. Pass the sugar, mate? This is the 8th year he wanted. Carefree mornings, laughing with friends, where the worst thing waiting for them was lessons. It hasn't happened much, what with the war and, well, Malfoy. But sometimes there's an odd glimpse at what life can be, and it keeps him going. Just remembering Malfoy makes his stomach swoop, and he has to force himself to focus as Hermione launches into a spiel about plans for their next Hogsmeade weekend. It's been 2 weeks since their chat in the library, yet he can't ignore him, betrayed by the hairs on his back of his neck, which prickle as soon as Malfoy enters the vicinity. But at least his heart stopped racing the moment copies of the Prophet start dropping from the delivery owls. Speaking of which... Here we go, Ron murmurs, as the windows open in preparation. My bet's 5 letters and 2 parcels this morning. What you reckon? Harry bites back a groan as Seamus claps hands with Ron, trying to find some shred of happiness that at least someone's enjoying the endless onslaught of thanks and propositions he's been subjected to since the war, but lands solely on resentment instead. Even with his boxed at the post office holding all the non-urgent communications, it's a daily affair trying to feed all the owls before he gets pecked to death, and no amount of baked goods or sugar mice can make up for that. And 3, 2, 1! He's trying to shove an owl treat at a feisty fucker who clocked him in the face with a wing when he catches sight of Malfoy. For once, he's looking straight at Harry, which usually only happens when they exchange the odd, half-assed glare because they're them. But it never goes further than that. Yet, don't people realize how pathetic they are, clamoring for your attention, Potter? He sneers, sweeping closer as the owl finally flaps away. What? How articulate. How you've charmed every blathering witch and wizard in the land, including this pitiful 4th year. He gestures to a wide-eyed, trembling girl, cowering behind him, with cheeks as red as Ron's hair. I'll never know. Don't go picking on her, Malfoy. Why shouldn't I? Because she didn't do anything wrong. Oh, really? Malfoy's eyes flash. I shouldn't be surprised that you were so enjoying being doted on by everyone that you missed her stealing a parcel of yours. Bony fingers pluck a plain cardboard box from the girl's grasp and hold it aloft. The sole, circular sticker in the top right corner makes Harry's mouth run dry. You give that back, Ron growls. Valuable, is it? Malfoy taunts. But Harry spots the moment the tension in his shoulders eases, just slightly. Harry swallows, hard. Utters, I doubt anything of mine would ever be valuable to you. Finally, something we agree on. His lips curl for a moment, then he sends the package flying straight into Harry's chest. Keep your slothering fans on a lead, Potter. It's enough to push the rest of us off our breakfast. The hush is broken by Ron's fuming as Malfoy strides away. But Harry can barely hum half-hearted noises of agreement as he clutches the box to his chest. Don't understand why now. Hermione's voice breaks through the rushing of blood in his ears. He's left you alone since the beginning of term, hasn't he, Harry? Yeah. He jerks, swallowing hard. He has, but who knows what sets off a prick like him? There's hums of agreement. Then the bell rings, giving him an excuse to shove his box of testosterone vials into his bag. He hasn't had a chance to thank Malfoy when he stumbles across him in a dusty corridor. Literally. It's a night where Hermione and Ron are otherwise occupied, where schoolwork exists to be ignored, and where the war can't be. Mapping the corridors, he can soothe the burning itch in his legs and pretend he's just restless from a day at sitting at desks. But his vision still hazes over with lights and ghosts. He barely catches himself as he trips over Malfoy's foot. Ow, fuck! Don't you realize glasses are supposed to stop you from being a blundering idiot, Potter? Sorry, he gasps, and it feels like the first time he can breathe. Whatever. And though Malfoy spits the word, a thickness clings to it that makes him blink. Grey eyes narrow with a frown, and then flicker dangerously through pale lashes, and Harry's feet don't move. "What the fuck are you looking at?" Draco growls. "What's wrong?" His jaw clenches. "The fact you won't leave me alone, for one." "No." Harry examines the tear tracks on Malfoy's cheeks. "You're upset." "Congratulations. I marvel at your skills of deduction. Can you piss off now?" "What happened?" "That's business, Potter." "Business?" "Yes. None of yours." He lets out a sigh. "Come on, Malf. Come on, what?" He snarls. "Do you think that just because you think you can just demand to know everything else about me? Fuck you." "I'm not demanding anything, I just wanted to stick your nose in where it doesn't belong, because that's your fucking specialty. I know. Well, not tonight, Potter, so just run along and leave me the fuck alone." Vicious heat licks in his chest, but he forces himself to take a deep breath. "Fine." He swallows. "But..." And he sees Malfoy tense. "I haven't had the chance to thank you for the other morning. I don't know what I'd done if..." He shakes his head. "If I can repay you in any other way than leaving, then I will." Malfoy sniffs, his shoulders dropping the tiniest amount. "Just don't tell people I'm like this." "I won't." And it's softer than he expects it to be. "Not that I'm ashamed or anything," he adds, voice as sharp as his jaw. "I've just got enough ways for my days to be ruined right now." The bitterness in his voice twists something in Harry's chest, and he pauses, biting his cheek. Not to... but have you... I mean..." He sucks in a deep breath. Do you pack?" "What?" It's just sometimes on a shit day, packing gives me a boost, so I thought that..." "One," Malfoy growls, suddenly nose to nose and jabbing a finger into his chest. "That is absolutely none of your business. And two," Harry's back hits a wall, "suggesting I need a cock to feel like a man is complete cis-normative hippogriff shit. I wasn't. And if you ever so much as breathe a word about it to me again, you'll..." All right, I get it." He shoves him away. "I was just trying to help you." "Well, don't." "Fine. I never will again. Happy?" "No. I'm still staring at your face." He doesn't breathe through the fire this time. Lets his lip curl instead. "I knew I hated you for a reason." Chapter 3. Okay, he can admit it. He shouldn't have said that. He doesn't need the constant stabbing sensation in his stomach to prove the point. Malfoy hasn't looked at him since, which wouldn't be noteworthy, except that the next week they were paired together for a potions lesson. They'd somehow successfully brewed a newt-level potion without Malfoy uttering a single word to him, or glancing at him once. If there had been any doubt of Harry being a giant cock, and there had been, Malfoy was usually the one who carried that title. It had died a slow, painful death during those 2 hours. Malfoy had fled through the door the second the bell rang, and Harry hadn't seen him anywhere other than a classroom since. And apparently, no amount of staring at the back of someone's head would be sufficient to communicate an apology. 8th and 7th years, please pay close attention. Harry sighs, dragging his gaze away from Malfoy yet again to focus on McGonagall. As you know, we have been practicing the transfiguration of features of non-human vertebrates. Now that you're all proficient, it is time to attempt transfiguration of a human feature. A ripple of excitement goes through the class. Thus, you will divide yourself into pairs and attempt to modify something about your partner. As one, the class begins to move, and Harry finds Anthony Goldstein giving him a helpless shrug as everyone else pairs off. Just remember, McGonagall calls above the hubbub, any changes should be made with your partner's consent. And personally, I'd appreciate if something more sophisticated than what you would look like as an opposite gender was explored. A visible spark of inspiration glows in the room at McGonagall's words, and a pit in Harry's stomach opens. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees Ron glancing his way, appraising Goldstein, and Harry vows to get him a pack of Dribbles when they next go to Hogsmeade, but doesn't pause his scanning of the room. The pit grows to a crater when he finds him, and he moves before Goldstein can blink. I'm Malfoy's partner, Harry blurts, almost before he's in hearing range. Zachariah Smith is midway through casting a predatory sneer on his face, as Malfoy stands poker straight. What the hell, Potter? He spits. You're with Goldstein. I've changed my mind. I'm with Malfoy, you're with Goldstein. But I'm already here. And now I am. I achieved that by putting one foot in front of the other. It's called walking. You should give it a go by heading over to Goldstein. It can be pretty challenging, but I'm sure a big boy like you can manage it. Smith sneers. Whatever, Potter. You think you're so special. Special enough to not have to listen to your bullshit, yeah. Without waiting for a response, Harry turns and meets steely eyes for the first time in weeks. His breath stutters in his throat. So... Swallowing is far more difficult than it should be. Would you be okay with me trying to change your nose? Wrath rages in Malfoy's eyes, tempered only by something Harry can only hope is relief. And for a long, painful moment, he braces himself to be hexed. But then there's a terse nod, and he lets out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. But if you disfigure me, I will turn you into a chocolate frog. That's fair. He holds his hands up. Okay. Ready? Not at all. Harry casts anyway, unable to stop himself sniggering when he succeeds in changing Malfoy's haughty nose into a cute button of a thing, which immediately makes him sneeze. Bless you, he says, then chuckles again when Malfoy glares. Sorry, that wasn't my intention. Yes, well, my turn. It's just as painful as when Malfoy stamped on his face, which probably was Malfoy's intention, and he can tell from the satisfied smirk that he looks ridiculous. Should send a picture of that to the papers, Malfoy says. Now that your nose is as piggish as your personality, people might stop flocking to you. Ugh, he moans. I wish. Malfoy's hastily hidden frown feels like a victory. And Harry continues as he sets their faces to rights. I honestly believe I could sprout wings out of my arse, smell like turds, and be physically unable to utter a sentence without the word fuck in it, and people would still fall all over me. You're right. It's enough to put people off their breakfast. Finally noticed, have you? Harry barely manages to not roll his eyes. But about my piggish personality. I owe you an apology. Malfoy's eyes narrow. Which one are you referring to? The coolness to his tone sinks deep into Harry's chest, inciting a fire to fight it, but he takes a deep breath. I shouldn't have said that I hate you. It's untrue, for one, and it was mostly uncalled for another. So, I'm sorry. Malfoy regards him carefully, turning his wand in his hand like a nervous habit. Apology accepted, he murmurs moments later. And I suppose I owe you an apology too. You were just trying to help. I may have misheard you and jumped to conclusions. And jumped down my throat, Harry says, before he can slam his mouth shut. Malfoy's jaw tightens. Sorry, it's fine, Malfoy. I probably would have done the same. But I'd really like it if we didn't spend the next year at each other's throats, or pretending each other didn't exist. Malfoy's shoulders relax a little. I'd like that too. Good, Harry says. Now, can I try and lengthen your earlobes? Only if I can shrink that huge mouth of yours. Deal, he says, with an eye roll. It's only hours later, once his features have been contorted into every possible position and returned to normal again, that he realizes he smiled for the first time in weeks. Chapter 4. He can't breathe. He knows he must be. Knows he has to be bringing in some air with each gasp, but it's all he can think as he stumbles forward in the dark. I can't breathe. Something hits him from the side, grips his arm, and it burns until he's thrashed it off. Then someone tries to talk to him. If the thing that looks like a mouth moving is anything to go by, but it's too fast, too quiet, too much. Calm me. Try. Breathe. Can help? Say. Sing. Ron. It's his attempt to croak his name that tells him that he's been screaming, that he's now lost his voice. But then the mouth disappears, and darkness filled with flashes and the smell of copper surrounds him again, and he howls. It lasts for a minute. It lasts a century. It lasts until there's a streak of orange and a blur of freckles. The burning returns, but this time it doesn't let go. And with it is a calm voice in his ear, murmuring honey-warm words he can't make out, until he's limp and shivering against something solid and warm. That's it, Harry. I've got you. It was a nightmare. Breathe now. It rumbles through his cheek, which is wet, and shifts the heaviness in his chest just enough to let more steady stream of air in. You can go now. Ron's voice, colder now for some reason, says after someone, probably him, has sobbed some more. Of course. A voice answers, quiet, resigned, and oddly like Malfoy's. If you breathe a single word of this, I won't. And there's strength to the voice this time. Make sure of it. Then, much more gently. Come on, mate. Let's go to bed. He doesn't remember the journey there, though his aching toes are proof that he stumbled through it. But the feeling of it all lingers, hooked deep beneath his skin like barbed claws. It makes breathing far harder than it should be first thing in the morning. That sounded like a rough night, mate, Ron murmurs, before Harry's even realized he's still there. A hoarse noise of agreement is all he can muster, and his throat tightens all over again when Ron urges him closer. We can just stay here today, he says, hand combing through Harry's hair as though it's the most natural thing in the world. A day off might help. But he's tried that before. Tried burrowing under thick rain-scented covers and hiding from it all. It always makes the feeling stronger. It takes a stupid number of hugs to get him dressed, and an arm round his shoulders to get him to the Great Hall, but the emptiness consuming him lessens with each step, and he starts to catch some of the words Ron's saying. By the time they're headed for lessons, he's managed a shadow of a smile. Trying not to lean too heavily onto Hermione, who's nattering in his ear, he glances around and catches a flash of white blonde, and the part of last night he's been trying to forget slams back into his stomach. I handled it, Ron murmurs before he can even open his mouth. If that ferret so much as thinks. He won't. And he's just as surprised to hear his voice as Ron and Hermione are. I kind of trust him, now. The ferret? He's not a ferret, Ron, Harry says. Since when have you trusted him? Hermione asks. Since a few weeks ago. Why? It's a fair question, but his world trembles as his friends frown at him. I can't tell you. But you can tell us anything, Harry, Hermione murmurs. I know, and I can, but I can't this time. Please. And he hates that his voice breaks. Can you trust me on this? Hermione worries her lip, and nausea builds. But then Ron's there, wrapping an arm around both of them again. Of course we can. Just don't expect us to like him or anything. Never. He sighs, sagging into him just for a moment. The warning bell rings, and Malfoy makes a move. Go on ahead to Hagrid's? We'll save you a spot. He can't keep the flicker of a smile on his face as he wheels his legs to catch up to Malfoy, nor keep his heart from starting to hammer again. but it all stops dead when grey eyes suddenly fix on his.
I wanted to thanks.
Malfoy blinks. I'm afraid I'm going to need you to repeat that. Should the ground really feel like it's shaking?
I said I'm here to say thanks. And sorry, but mostly thanks. I wasn't...
Don't mention it. Please. It's disgustingly undignified. He rolls his eyes, but Harry catches the nervous fluttering of his fingertips and finds the tightness in his chest ebbing slightly.
Fine, I won't.
But Malfoy gives him a once-over. I mean, you're still the arrogant prat who lived, right? A slow smile spreads across his face.
Well, you might have a bit of a grace period where I appear less annoying, but I'll make up for it soon enough.
How joyful, Malfoy drawls, though his lips quirk at the edges. It makes something warm trickle in Harry's stomach.
Well,
he murmurs after a moment of silence.
Seeing as there's nothing to say, and obviously no one would ever be worried about anyone anyway, I should probably get to care of magical creatures.
Right. I have to get to History of Magic, anyway.
Okay. Well, I'll see you around, I guess. And, Malfoy.
He waits for him to meet his eyes.
Thank you.
Malfoy's gaze is far more intense than expected. Anytime, Potter. Chapter 5. The sun is blinding as they stroll through Hogsmeade, and any lingering darkness is blown away by the crisp autumn breeze.
It's nice to see you smile, mate.
He looks at Ron over Hermione's wild hair, and then ducks his head when his blue-green eyes shine too intensely.
Yeah, well...
Hermione's squeeze to his hand reminds him that he doesn't need to finish his sentence, and he clutches hers close as his heart grows too big in his chest. It's such a gorgeous day, she sighs. I feel like I could stay out here for hours.
Maybe we should go for a fly when we get back, Ron muses. Really make the most of it before the sun comes in. I'd be up for that, he says, and revels in the rare, gentle thrum of excitement rippling through him.
You two just want to avoid your potions essay. Hermione gives them a knowing look, but rolls her eyes fondly when Ron gives her his best, boyish smile. A crowd spills out of Honeydukes, and they go in whilst it's quieter. There aren't many new products, as Ambrosius is still trying to recover from the last year, but Harry's grateful for a reason not to dawdle, throwing his essentials into his basket with practiced speed. And if Hermione and Ron notice him grabbing the products they gaze at but can't afford or justify, they know better than to say anything.
Thanks don't have to be expressed verbally, Hermione,
Ron had said over the summer, when she'd gone through a particularly difficult period and left them all feeling a little useless. And though he knew he didn't need to thank them for being there at all, Harry had run with it. A few clouds are hiding the sun when they get back outside, and the three of them wordlessly wander towards the 3 broomsticks, as the breeze sends shivers down their spines. But pause when Hermione points to a new shop opposite. I thought the prophet mentioned new businesses here, but it was very vague.
It looks like Muggle clothes, Harry murmurs. Maybe there'd be something in there for your mom, Ron. Good point. Bloody rude of her to have a birthday every year, hey?
Fellman's Fabrics boasts a new, integrated approach to clothing, spouts an automated voice that plays as the bell tinkles above them.
What in the bloody hell is an integrated approach to clothing?
Ron grumbles, poking at a line of floral dresses as though they might eat him. Apparently, one where all the clothes look more or less Muggle, but still have charms and things woven into them. Look. Hermione points to a label on a heavy-duty jacket. This has thermoregulating spells embedded so you never get too hot or cold, and the length can be adjusted to match every occasion, or just to make the wearer feel like they've got a cloak on instead of a Muggle coat.
Well, if that doesn't get some of our lot giving Muggle things a go, I don't know what will, Ron said. Now, what do you think Mum will like? I bet Perth has already gotten her a scarf.
A row of skirts stares Harry in the face, and he scowls at them before heading around the corner, where he finds Malfoy, inspecting a blue and white dress. It's oddly similar to a child's school dress, like the kind Aunt Petunia had forced him to wear one term after she'd begrudgingly bought it for him. And Harry has to quickly turn to a small men's section in the corner. Then a wolf whistle cuts through the air.
Good choice, Malfoy!
A sandy-haired 5th year, flanked by his friends, calls, and the muscle in Malfoy's jaw jumps.
Very your colour! Yeah,
another sniggers.
You should wear that to dinner sometime.
Malfoy's hands curl into fists and shake at his sides. A brunette steps forward.
It'd really bring out your...
His mouth's glued shut before Harry realizes his wand's in his hand, and the air around him crackles with stinging hexes.
So what if it brings out Malfoy's eyes? No, really.
He spits as they stumble back.
What's so wrong about dresses? Are you saying that women are ridiculous because they wear them? Would you think your mother was ridiculous in a dress? Would you talk to her like that? Or laugh at her? Just like you've done to him? Would you only value her for the way she looks and the clothes she wears? No?
He's standing over them now as they shake their heads frantically.
And why the fuck were you laughing at him?
Mate, it was just a joke. The second one rushes. It was just funny because he was looking at women's
And why would that be funny?
How am I supposed to know? But it is.
So is it funny when a girl looks at guys' clothes?
Well, I mean...
Would you say that was hot?
His cheeks flushing is all the answer Harry needs.
Maybe it's funny when guys look at girls' clothes because you consider women weaker than men, and a girl in guys' clothes is hot because they're trying to be more like the weaker sex. And you know what that makes you? A sexist, misogynistic prick. Now leave him the fuck alone.
They barely nod before they're gone, scampering out the door, still clutching the various places his hexes hit. Though he can feel Hermione and Ron watching, he searches again for Malfoy. He's still clutching the white and blue fabric in his fist. Hey. He swallows, steps towards him. Are you okay? A jolt seems to run through him, and in the next moment, he's thrown the dress back onto the hanger and begun sweeping through the aisles, visibly shaking. Before Harry can whisper, "Wait," the door slams behind him too, and a too cheerful, "Thank you for your patronage," echoing after him. Maid. Ron breathes. What's going on between you two? He sighs, regret curdling in his stomach. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I just fucked it up. Chapter 6. He's pretending to ignore the pit in his stomach that's been there for the last 37 hours, letting the heat from the fireplace warm his cheeks and lying on the comfiest sofa in the deserted common room. Potter. And then he's 10 feet in the air, very nearly actually out of his skin. Shit a brick! Malfoy! He gasps. Warn a guy, will you? Sorry. Malfoy rushes, lips twitching and eyes too wide. I didn't... I mean, that wasn't my intention. He takes a deep breath. I came over here to say thank you. He's twirling his wand between his thumb and forefinger again. And though he's trying to hold Harry's gaze, his eyes keep making a bid for the carpet. It makes Harry's heart beat a little faster. Oh. He licks his lips. You didn't need to thank me. Well, you would think, but someone insisted on being a goddamn Gryffindor every time they were shown common bloody courtesy, so it would be considered rude if the sentiments weren't returned. Malfoy mutters, cheeks aflame. Oh. He can't stop the smile spreading across his face. I suppose it would be rude. Quite. Malfoy finally gives up on trying to keep eye contact, shoulders drooping, and Harry wonders if Malfoy's prickishness is just a front for the awkwardness. I just needed you to know that I appreciate it. Well, I'm glad, he murmurs. He takes in the sharpness of his jaw, the bags under his eyes. Are you okay? Malfoy's jaw tightens. I wasn't. It's low and quiet and pained, and Harry almost wishes the crackling of the fire had covered it. But I'm more level now. He nods. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Is there anything I can do? No, Malfoy lets out a huff of a laugh, and somehow there's no bite to his words. I don't need saving. Thanks. You could just need a friend. He pushes. A frown wrinkles Malfoy's brow. Is that what we are? Well, I don't know if there's a better term for ex-arch-enemies come secret keepers of trans identities. Do you? No. He concedes ruefully. Probably not. But the frown deepens. You really don't hate me? It doesn't sound like a question, with its lack of inflection and confidence of tone, but The caged uncertainty within his eyes speaks volumes.
No, I don't,
Harry says.
I did once, but not for a long time now.
Malfoy swallows.
Oh. Don't get me wrong. You can still piss me off because you're a poncy prick sometimes, but oh, how wonderfully charming. Like you think any differently of me.
That's not what we're discussing.
But it's true, isn't it? You still think I can be a big attention-seeking dick, just like I think you can still be an insufferable snob.
Well, the evidence does seem to support...
Knew it.
Do you have to make everything such a spectacle, Potter?
Says the most dramatic person in his...
I am not.
Look, we're getting off topic.
Which is your fault, might I add?
Harry rolls his eyes, and he's sure he sees Malfoy smirk in victory. The point is, no, I don't hate you, Malfoy. And I'm pretty sure you don't really hate me either.
Excuse me. He draws himself up to his full height. I never said that. Harry raises an eyebrow.
But am I wrong?
He opens his mouth, pauses, purses his lips. I still never said that. A delicate flush paints Malfoy's cheeks as Harry laughs properly for the first time since he can remember, and his stomach does a weird little shimmy as Malfoy's lips curl at the edges too.
I knew it,
he crows, only laughing harder at Malfoy's eyes widening. Do you want to wake up a whole year? Shut up, you buffoon.
What? Are you gonna make me?
Potter! Malfoy hisses, cheeks rapidly darkening. Have you no sense of decorum at all?
Not really, no.
He gives him his most innocent smile. Heathen, Malfoy mutters, though his eyes twinkle.
Wanker,
he grins. Then, when they've both stopped sniggering,
friends?
His heart beats faster than it should, when Malfoy's lips curl upwards. Friends. It's the clock chiming that makes him realize he's been staring at Malfoy, smiling like an idiot for goodness knows how long. It can't be 1 o'clock in the morning, Draco moans.
God, Terry's gonna kill me.
I've heard Goldstein gripe about him. A smirk flickers across Malfoy's lips. He sounds like a delightful roommate. Harry rolls his eyes.
He's not too bad, all things considered. I suppose he does put up with a lot.
He's just a grumpy bitch about his sleep. And Malfoy's so deadpan that Harry can't help but snort.
Pretty much, yeah. Ugh.
He sighs.
He did draw the short straw, though. I mean, who wants the roommate that wakes up screaming more nights than not? I'd be a grumpy bastard in his shoes, too.
It's not like you're choosing it.
I know. He scowls. And I know he knows that, too.
A heaviness settles in his chest again.
I just wish things were different. You know?
I get nightmares too. The words are quiet, a pained confession, and Malfoy looks anywhere but him, twirling his wand once more.
I'm sorry,
Harry murmurs, hoping Malfoy knows he means it.
How do you deal with them?
He stares at the carpet. Swallows hard. I don't think I do.
Could you go to your friend? No.
It's firm, but there's no bite to his tone. We're not close like that anymore. And the way his wand spins faster and faster makes Harry want to hold him.
You could come to me.
The rueful twitch of his lips is painful. You'd be with Weasley.
Not every night.
He tries weakly. Besides, you really think Boot would leave his bed? Why did that have to be a fair point?
You could just come and get me then. We could kick your roommate out.
Wait. He frowns and watches Malfoy stiffen slightly.
Who is your roommate?
He gives a tight sigh. I don't have one. His tone is carefully cool, and his face is carefully blank when he meets Harry's gaze. Harry just waits. It wasn't my idea, he starts, and Harry wants to smooth the tightness from his shoulders. But due to my role in the war, it was thought I would be endangered if I were to share a room. Though McGonagall said normally a suitable roommate could be found, she wasn't sure if it was wise to try, given that I could possibly be outed if things went wrong. So I have my own room.
That makes sense.
Harry nods, and is grateful when the tension slowly bleeds out of Malfoy.
I'm glad she put your safety first.
Malfoy nods. Me too.
But that means we could go back to your room.
Malfoy rolls his eyes with a good-natured huff. Arguably, yes, but it won't work, Potter. There's only one bed.
I climb into a single with Ron, and he's much bigger than you.
You would be in with Weasley, because you would have had a nightmare too.
Not every time.
And I wouldn't come and get you anyways, because I just wouldn't. Alright? The muscle in his jaw is jumping again, and Harry can only watch as the ache in his chest grows.
All right, he murmurs. But the offer's there if you change your mind.
Malfoy makes a nod, then wavers. I don't need saving, Potter, he says softly.
I know. You just need a friend.
Chapter 7. There's far more excitement in the entrance hall than usual on a Thursday afternoon, and even Harry's steps are tentatively lighter as he searches the sea of 8th years.
There you are,
he says, finding the slim, coated figure in the corner, picking his nails. He hopes his smile isn't too nervous when Malfoy's eyes snap to his.
Ready, partner?
It's been 3 days. 3 completely uneventful, unremarkable days since Harry went to bed wondering if Malfoy would sleep through the night. And everything is as it was. There's peace. They're friends. They barely have cause to interact. Except everything's different. Now, Harry finds himself wondering how Malfoy's doing. Whether he has anyone to talk to about things, or if anyone even knows he has nightmares. Now, Harry finds a new sensation curling through his chest when he thinks about him. One that jumps quickly when they catch each other's eyes across the room, and sets his heart thumping. And from the way Malfoy's cheeks tinge pink whenever they share smiles across the corridor, he's not the only one affected. He just catches a flicker of a smile lifting Malfoy's lips, before his features become scowled. Ready as I'll ever be. And he's braced so tightly, Harry can practically hear his pulse pounding. Do you have an idea as to where it is we're going?
Not the foggiest. All I know is we've been given an envelope with details, and a comb for transport, and where to immerse ourselves in the activities, or whatever that means.
Muggle studies really was the weirdest lesson they had. Now a compulsory subject with a brand new syllabus, it was far more interactive and useful, and would hopefully prevent much of the hatred that had fueled Voldemort's reign. But it was also random and unpredictable, and sent students on field trips into the Muggle world with no warning. Like today. Well, I'm sure we'll find out soon enough, Malfoy says nonchalantly, though his nails dig further into his fingers. And I'm dressed appropriately for anything. He can't keep the waver out of his voice, as his fingers smooth down his navy woolen jacket, then fiddle with the belt loop on his vintage blue jeans that cling snugly to his hips and thighs, and Harry wonders how he can possibly doubt that he looks like anything other than a model. Especially compared to him, and his torn jeans, comfy t-shirt, and leather jacket.
You're stunning,
his mouth says, before his brain can catch up, and he stammers as Malfoy's eyes widen.
Shall we go?
He barely suppresses a sigh of relief when, after a moment, Malfoy merely swallows and presses a pinky to the pre-offered comb. But as they're yanked through space, Harry remembers just how much he hates every form of magical transport besides flying. He's sure he would have gone arse over head had Malfoy not caught him.
Thanks.
He winces, grateful to find a wall as the nausea continues. You're welcome. Malfoy sounds far too composed. Jammy brat. Where are we? He gropes around for the envelope.
Bristol. Apparently we're going to the cinema.
Really? And Malfoy's flushing cheeks tell him that he didn't quite mean to sound so excited.
Yep. I take it you've never been before,
he says, watching the wind ruffle Malfoy's feather-light hair as they start out across the grass. With the intense pleasure Father took in playing Mock the Muggle, somehow I never got around to it. But I've read all kinds of things about it.
Really?
Over the summer, whilst awaiting my trial, I had a lot of time for research. Reading up on Muggles seemed appropriate, and their love for movies meant I heard a lot about it.
Wow.
Harry blinks.
That's really cool, Malfoy.
His shoulders shrug slightly, but his cheeks turn pink. It's no big deal. There's comfortable silence until they're inside, drowning in the smell of popcorn, and Harry's stomach does a weird shimmy when Malfoy practically vibrates with excitement.
Seeing as you know so much, want to buy the tickets?
Harry asks.
You're just as confident with Muggle money as I am.
Malfoy's fingers twitch back to his nails, but a spark ignites in his eyes, and minutes later, they're clutching little paper rectangles emblazoned with the word Mulan. Do you get to keep these? Malfoy asks, as they move to queue for popcorn.
I think so.
And he's not prepared for Malfoy to smile like that. He feels less and less like the one raised by Muggles as he struggles to answer Malfoy's questions about the normal popcorn and drink size to buy. But it's so much like being out with Hermione, it's almost a comforting experience. He grins when they finally sink back into their seats. Wow. Malfoy breathes, gazing up at the screen. It's so big.
Yeah. I'm glad we chose seats at the back.
I thought that's where everyone wants to be. Normally. Malfoy frowns, inspecting a sweet and salted popcorn kernel before throwing it in his mouth.
Probably. You're the expert after all.
Grey eyes frown at him for a moment, questioning and sharp, and Harry's grateful that the lights dim for the trailers. Blanketed in the darkness, the world tries to fall away. But when warm breath tickles his ear, everything comes back into sharp focus. That parent trap looked good, Malfoy whispers, and shivers race across Harry's skin.
Yeah.
He fights to breathe.
I can imagine Fred and George pulling something like that.
There's a snort of agreement. Then the screen goes black and expands further, and Harry feels Malfoy hold his breath. It should be the opening scene that's mesmerizing, and the music that sends flutters through his stomach, but there's something about the way Malfoy's knuckles whiten on the armrest between them that stops him from hearing a single word. It's only when those long fingers reach for popcorn again that Harry can coax his gaze back to the screen.
Wow.
He breathes. What? And Malfoy's electrifyingly close again.
Oh, nothing.
He struggles to shrug.
It looks really beautiful.
China's supposed to be. He watches Mulan's father point to the lotus flowers.
I hope I get to travel someday.
You're Harry Potter. Malfoy raises an eyebrow. You'll get whatever you want. What if what I want is you? He blinks when the words teeter on his tongue, when the world spins too fast and his breath comes too slow all at once. But staring into stormy depths, he can't deny it's true. Don't look so surprised, Potter, Malfoy whispers. It's impertinent for our savior to impersonate a codfish. And as a manic laugh bubbles in Harry's throat, somehow, he wants him even more. The screen has barely faded to black when the hand clutches him. We need to watch it again.
What?
He laughs, skin burning from the touch. The film, Potter. We need to see it again.
What, now?
Oh, not now, you idiot, but at some point.
Well, I guess.
Didn't you see how fantastic it was? And beautiful and poignant?
Of course,
It was everything I'd hoped for. His hands flutter wildly as he spins to his feet. The music, the story, and the art. It was like I was somewhere entirely different, completely absorbed and transported and just wow. I knew they were clever, of course, but still, to think the credit my father, the rest of the world never gave them. It's just unthinkable. I wonder what other movies there are. Could we find a film library? Does such a thing exist, or how about a... He carries on, 1,000 words a minute, and Harry can't help but smile wider and wider, till it feels too big for his face. He doesn't realize he's reached for that soft woolen coat until it's grasped between his fingers, until Malfoy's words taper off, until Harry's eyes fall to the O of his delicate lips. Potter? The way his voice trembles is dizzying. You're so cute. There's a sharp inhale, a bright pink flush, a slow swallow. And then he's leaning forward, letting their breaths mingle and drowning as he gets closer, close enough for their lips to brush. And then there's nothing where Malfoy just stood. Fuck. Chapter 8. They're in the changing rooms. Of course, they're in the changing rooms. Shit! Malfoy? Fuck! I thought I was alone. I'm so sorry. And Harry can hear Malfoy squeezing his eyes shut as he scrambles to cover himself. No. Where the fuck is his underwear? It's my fault. I should have been more careful. He pulls his boxers up and jumps, forcing them over his still damp legs, then wraps the towel around him for good measure. I'm covered. Well, the bottom half of me anyway. He swallows and feels it chase his heart down to his stomach. I'll just throw something on and then I'll be out of your hair. It's been a week. A week of silence and avoidance and further disappearing acts if Harry so much as looks Malfoy's way. And though his every moment is a little more hollow because of it, he hasn't got the energy to fight anymore. You'd have thought we'd learn by now. Malfoy's voice is low, but echoes off the tiles around the corner. Harry hates how much he's missed it. Yeah, he huffs, head popping through his hoodie. We're lucky it's only us catching each other. There's a noise of agreement, then silence but for the dripping of the taps as Harry yanks a hand through his hair. It was a good session today, though, Malfoy says, tone too airy. Yeah, it was. The tightness in his throat won't shift. I just need to grab my things, then. Harry? And hearing his name shouldn't make him freeze. Or want like that. Yeah? The silence drags on for years. You're cute, too. He barely breathes while his heart hammers in his chest. Oh. I'm sorry I left, Malfoy says, and his voice is stronger now, if more rushed. I'm not good with things like that. No, I shouldn't have just... But I want to kiss you. He makes a noise in the back of his throat, wrecked and needy, as desire lodges in his chest. I want to kiss you too. There's an echo of a sigh. Thank Merlin. Blonde hair peeks around the corner, falls beautifully over eyes that are too bright, too nervous, too gorgeous to let Harry breathe. And he can't help but trip forward.
Are you even decent right now?
He asks, breathless, giddy, floating. Does it matter? Fingers curl into his hoodie. His fresh, clean smell engulfs him. Breath lingers sweetly over his lips.
Not at all.
It's everything he's ever dreamed of, and more. Soft but firm, hungry yet gentle. And his toes curl as Malfoy gasps into his mouth.
You're going to suffocate me,
he pants, long moments later, forehead resting against Malfoy's. Worth it. Malfoy grins. And when his back meets the wall and hands cradle him close, it really is.